Let's see. I hope y'all can hear me. Let me turn the volume up. Hi, everybody. I think I'm live. Y'all know I be messing up every time I try to produce one of these on my own without Amina. But hello, I hope all of you are well. I'm Lurie Daniel Favors. This is my channel, so if you're here, you probably already follow me and already know that. But if you're not, hi, welcome. Typically, I am doing this live or live like this when I am also simultaneously streaming from my SiriusXM talk show. I am not doing that. I will not be actually doing any lives during my SiriusXM talk show, which is called Lurie Daniel Favors Show, or the Lurie Daniel Favors Show. And of course, we have the podcast, Lurie Breaks It Down, where you can get anywhere that you get podcasts, except on YouTube. We don't actually put the podcast on YouTube. And you're gonna hear noise behind me because I'm not home and I'm not in a studio, and I'm certainly not in a soundproof studio. I'm actually, the reason I'm not going to be doing any live streams from now until for really the next several days is because I am out of the country. And I am here in South Africa. We brought a number of our students from Brooklyn and from Ohio. We sort of connected with a number of the groups that we do work with. And so we are here. It is late at night. It is 10:46 p.m. here in Johannesburg, where we are at. We're doing a variety of cities. So we're going to be getting ready to head out from here pretty soon. But just wanted to pop in. I know some of y'all who only connect with me on YouTube are like, where's she at? Like, why she didn't do, what's up with our news? What's up with the live? This is what's up. Your sister friend is traveling. And it has been, I can honestly say without a doubt, absolutely life enhancing, mind boggling. I have never, this is my first time being on the continent of Africa, which is weird because I talk about, I think the way I talk, people would think like I'd spent half my life here. But this is our first time coming, and to be here with our students is just, man, and to see everything that we are seeing. And I thought I was going to come on and try to update y'all on the news. Yeah, oh yes, I'm definitely coming back to the States this time. This time, and because we are, I've said this on my show. I'm responding to a question in the chat. Yes, we are. I will be coming back to the States for now, right? I think it's important that we try as much as we can to be citizens of the world and try to travel and see as much as we can. And in light of the way things are shifting, it is certainly not a completely foreign thought to consider relocating outside of the state. So I'm not even gonna hold you. That's definitely something me and my husband talk about a lot, but never with any level of seriousness. The times right now make things seem very, very serious. So, but this trip has been amazing, primarily because even though for a lot of us who study African history, who study Black American history, somebody said, you're gonna love Soweto. So I hear, so I hear. But what's been so interesting, and I hope y'all can hear me, there's a little bit of an echo just because I'm in a room without the best of acoustics, but it has been crazy to me to see all of the similarities and connections that we have, even though most of us who are part of the transatlantic diaspora did not actually come from South Africa. So for me, South Africa has been featuring very prominently in the American zeitgeist, mainly because we recently had an experience where the president of the United States was basically like, we want white South Africans because we think they'll assimilate better. That's the type of immigrant that we want. And so to be here and to interact with people, and number one, it is true from what we've seen this far. We've only been here a few days. What we've seen thus far is like the white South Africans who are like, I'm the Afrikaner colonizer. They do not seem to be in the majority. And I remember reading about that and studying that, but it's interesting. You will get a married man in trouble. I already got my married man and he in trouble all the time, but it's a good kind of trouble. We make good trouble. If you know, you know. Do with that what you will. But yeah, it's just been amazing to see the connections and the similarities, even though, again, most of us did not come from South Africa, if you're a part of the Pan-African diaspora. So to see that whiteness is sort of universal in how it operates. And like you know a thing, right? Like you study a thing, like you can witness a thing, you can see a thing, but to be in the place and breathing the air, it has been absolutely beautiful. And it's been very empowering because, again, I'm seeing how predictable and repetitive whiteness is when it comes to its effort to try to thwart what Black people are doing, be they African, continental Africans, be they part of the diaspora. It's very, very predictable. It follows a very predictable path. And to see all that and experience it with our students was super dope because for some of them, this was their first flight. for several of them, it was their first time out the country, or it is their first time out the country. And so to see them make the connections, like we were talking about Hector Prieto, I'm pretty sure I'm messing up his name, 12-year-old little boy who was, protesting with a whole bunch of other young South Africans in Soweto, pushing back on apartheid, and ends up getting like shot at, killed, the whole 9 yards. Very similar to like everything that we see when we protesting back home. But what was crazy about it was they have these images of him being carried, the young boy, Hector, and again, I might be messing up his name, but there's these images of him being carried out by other young people who were protesting with him. And the image went viral. And this was like in the 1950s, 60s. I don't get me on the dates. Y'all know it's late and I'm tired. But it looked almost dead to like what was happening with Emmett Till. It was like almost the exact same thing, like seeing how this image galvanized South Africans, particularly, and this was in Soweto, shout out to the person who said I was gonna love it, to see that their image galvanized them. And for them, that date was June 16th. So first of all, we're hearing about June 16th, and I'm like, Juneteenth? And they were like, no, June 16th. And so that was wild, right? They have a June 16th that is like a central day where Hector was basically, that was the day that he was assassinated. And to realize that at the same time that they were using imagery of the brutalization that young Black people were experiencing in South Africa was around, not too distant from the time when Mamie Till had the body, her son's body, the pictures of what they had done to him also showed, and those pictures went viral. And it was just amazing to be reminded of the power of imagery and the power of what we do with the access to history that we have in each moment. And then, I knew about Nelson Mandela. Like we know Nelson Mandela, but to realize that man, during the course of his incarceration, he could only write 2 letters a year. And this is all stuff that we were learning. He could only write 2 letters a year, and the letters could be no more than 500 words. And he could only get 1 visitor a year. So like just thinking about like the power of the words that we speak and how loose I am sometimes. I'm just having my own introspection. Y'all just get a little bit of insight into my own thoughts. And to think about what that brother was going through, and only to be able to communicate twice a year, 500 words that had to be screened, and it had to be in English, right? So not even in his native language, it had to be in English. And just realizing that, again, whiteness in its effort to colonize or enslave is very predictable. It follows patterns. And I feel like the more we study those patterns, as we study those patterns, in addition to really studying ourselves, the most amazing revolutions, I think, can happen in ways that we just have not yet unleashed. And then there was, so much. I'm overwhelmed. I'll be very honest with you. I'm overwhelmed at this point. Learning just about, we ended up going to a museum and learn about it, like the origins of humanity. And I knew these things, I've studied it. I'm an Africana Studies major. I logically knew these things, but to see them, to witness them, and to hear people talking about them, and to realize, I used to use this phrase, me and my husband both did, that we were doing math and science and writing and having symbolic understandings of logic and depictions. But when Europeans were in caves. That's something that we've always, I've said that for years. We were doing math and science when Europeans were in caves. Y'all, when we went to this museum today, and they talked about the fact that, no, we were doing math and science and building society and creating symbols and imagery and doing very high level human type thinking when there was no Europeans at all. It wasn't even that they were in caves. They didn't even exist. They weren't a thing. They did not exist at all on the planet. And to realize how much we had contributed to the birthing of the world, it was just overwhelming in the best possible way. And again, it's one thing to study that. I'm a reader. I read a lot, and I've studied these things in books. The septum ring is the mark of the beast. Oh, baby, this ain't the channel for you, because I'm about to get another piercing. These comments are crazy. I'm talking about African shit. You talk about a septum ring. Do you know how many ways we beautify ourselves with rings and piercings? That's funny. But to realize that it's not that we were doing math and science and architecture and civilization when they were in caves. They weren't even on the planet yet. And to think about how ancient our history is and how ancient, and again, I'm not from South Africa. My people are not from South Africa. I'm talking about Africanity in general in a very broad speaking sense. It was just empowering. And then to see it, not through my 40-something-year-old eyes and my husband's 40-something, but to see it through the eyes of our students. Oh my God, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. That's been beautiful. I will probably do more of these throughout the time that I'm here. Again, by the time my show airs live, 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. It's late in the afternoon here. So I will not be doing lives during the show because I'm out. We're doing tours and trips and museums and whatnot. Particularly the scepter ring. Y'all evil. Why are you here? Should I block you? Like, you're a distraction and I don't even like you. I don't even know you. Hold on, let's just remove you from the chat. You don't get the goodness anymore. So now the septum ring doesn't have to bother you. That's the other good thing is I don't usually get to interact with the chat when I'm on the air because I'm watching the show and watching my producers and whatnot. So just wanted to pop in and let y'all know why I was not doing lives at the regular time. And I won't be doing lives at the regular time, but I will be doing these probably nightly, just to let you, fill you in on what's happening and how things are moving. I have been watching news back home, though. Looks like y'all got to, y'all, look at me talk about America like y'all. Looks like y'all's president struck a deal with the European Union, which was mad crazy because, like, Europe got nothing out of it. We got 15% tariffs, but, like, Europe got nothing out of it. And I was looking at the deal with Japan because I had said on my show today that, they've been talking about this international trade deal, this tariff deal that they had with Japan. And come to find out, ain't shit final. Like, Japan is like, what the hell are you talking about? We don't have a deal because Trump was like, oh, they're giving us a $550 billion bonus. Japan was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That is not happening. And so it's a deal that's not a deal. I don't know if we'll find the same thing out with the European Union deal. I got to study that, and frankly, I haven't had time to because, again, Africa. So that was kind of interesting. But in addition to that, those of you who have Androids, I need y'all to be careful because there has been like a data breach of like 10 million Android users, which builds on a data breach that took place earlier this spring. So those of you in particular who have Androids, you need to check your devices because it's basically turning your devices into computerized banking systems through which you are just a pass-through. So check your stuff, make sure you're updating and do whatever you got to do, change your passwords, this, that, and the other. Also, I was very intrigued to see that Benin, which is an African country, I believe it's a francophone African country where they speak French, they actually just declared that Spike Lee and Tanya Lewis Lee, their husband and married. I know we always talk about Spike, but Tanya Lewis Lee is like a force in and of her own. And they basically are now cultural ambassadors from Benin to Black America, which is hella dope because this is, again, another one of those signs of our communities being able to connect even across the waters. What else was it? Oh, and Sierra also just got, shout out to her knees and her ankles. She just got her citizenship in Benin because apparently that is where her ancestry, whatever, got her to. So shout out to them. It was, again, another confirmation that the more we have discussions about the need to exchange and build relationship across these waters, that was just kind of dope confirmation to see. Yeah, shout out to Sierra. All right, I'm not going to make this long. It was just a couple of news tidbits. I just really want to touch base with y'all. And let me just scroll through the chat right quick, make sure y'all good, have fun, be safe. I'll be home in a couple of, I'll be home soon. So I say when you're home, thank you for bringing all the information. Listen, man, the information that I provide, I think of it the way we talk about it on Urban View as a clean glass of water. Like our communities right now have an endless supply of dirty water. The water we be drinking has got mud, rocks, all sorts of shit in it that is not good for us to drink. And if those of us who have integrity, those of us who love Black people with our whole heart, like if we keep providing clean glasses of water, then our communities will come and get the information. Africa looks good on you. I think so too. Thank you, TMFJ. Shout out to you for always being a support and making sure the chat don't get crazy. This seems like a dream. It really is. It really is. It has been a dream trip. I am blessed beyond measure, and I'm very grateful for it. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, the show is still new. Oh, you blocked him too, Deborah? Yeah, that. We talking real shit. You talking about a piercing? My God. The show, just so y'all know though, the show is brand new. Like we're not doing pre-recorded, we're not doing best of shows or repeat shows. Like it's all brand new content. Like I will be up early tomorrow, scouring the news so I can provide you the latest and greatest updates for tomorrow's episode. And then we have some great guests in the second hour that you guys will hear. Let's see, I'm just checking the chat, contemplating getting one. Get you a septum ring. Whoever said they're contemplating it, get it. It'll make your life fun. I'm kidding. I love piercings and tats and all of that. So I think we should all just, ease up a little bit on the judgment. That man really said the septum ring is the mark of the beast. Hold on, I got to remove that line too. Hold on, get you out of here. You don't have to look at the septum ring, bruh, or whatever it is, cuz, whatever you was. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it there. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm taking lots of pictures. But the way I typically do things is, I heard this quote once from, I think it was D. Ray Kessin, and he says something along the lines of, by the time I'm there, I'm already gone. So I have adopted that philosophy, which is I don't post anything like the day I'm there. Like by the time y'all hear about it, it's already done and over with. By the time I post about it, it's over and done with. Because not everybody appreciates the things that I have to say, and I don't like the whole world knowing where I'm at when I'm there. So yeah, I just wanted to pop in, say hello. I will be sharing lots and lots and lots from the trip. Definitely for those of you who are in Urban View and YouTube, these weekly conversations, these conversations at night is where I'll recap some of the things that I've experienced, just so we can talk and build and maybe, plant some seeds. And listen, I am not saying every Black American or member of the diaspora has to move back to Africa. I'm not saying anybody got to move back to Africa. I'm just saying this is a very important time for us to cultivate relationships with Africans and Africa. And we can start by connecting with the African people within our own community. It is a very important time for us among the diaspora to build relationships, to build connections. And I'm not saying pick up and move, because the last thing we want to do is be a Liberia. And by that, I mean, we had a whole bunch of Black Americans during the enslavement era who was sent back to Liberia. And they didn't go back and intermingle with the local community as equals. They went back with a very American approach to seeing African as less than, and it's caused problems that Liberia is still dealing with to this day. So I'm not suggesting that at all. And those of you who have explored expatriation, which is the idea of moving to another country, you may have seen like a lot of videos recently talking about a lot of the people who took up Ghana on their right to return and their pathway to citizenship. A lot of them are leaving Ghana, and I don't know if that's true. I know some are, many people are staying. I have friends who are buying property there right now. But I would just encourage that for those of you who are thinking about perhaps moving to the continent or another part of the Pan-African diaspora, just really realize that you're an American. If you're coming from America, we are socialized as Americans. And yes, in America, we ain't got shit. We're on the bottom of the totem pole. And I say that with relative, tongue in cheek, because there is a class element to this as well. But in America, we are at the bottom of the racial hierarchy. But when we leave America, we're American Blacks, not necessarily Black Americans. And so how we show up as Americans, you will realize that we still have a lot of entitlement. The same way we see how white people do us is sometimes how we do when we go internationally. So I'm not at all suggesting, not everybody, I'm not at all suggesting that everybody should consider moving or whatnot, but I just think we need to be developing relationships. We need to be developing intra-dialogue, intra-diaspora dialogue, so that we can be clear about who the real threats are, so that we can be clear about our capacity to support each other. And if y'all get a chance, I'm doing too much. I'm about to turn this into a whole ass show. Let me stop here because I'm tired. If you have the possibility of building intra-diaspora connections, I strongly encourage you to do so. We are going to find it very difficult to be in isolation mode during this time where nationalism, white nationalism, is not just sweeping our country, but is sweeping the planet. And the global majority is the global majority. And what has been crazy is, while we've been out here, is for my students and me to realize, like, they can't tell us apart. Like, when we're walking through places, other than the fact that you hear us speak, nobody's like, oh, look at the tourists. Like they look like their hairstyles, the complexions, the hairlines. For those of you who seem to believe that some parts of the diaspora have a different hairline and you can tell where somebody's at from the hairline, which is the funniest new version of pseudoscience. It's kind of like when the Belgians went into Rwanda and were like, we can tell you're the smarter Rwandans. But they weren't even Rwandans at that point. But we can tell you're the smarter ones because your nose is 2 centimeters to the left, or your brain is this big. And so that creates like all this tension between the Hutus and the Tutsis. So if you're listening to people who say they can tell where somebody's from because of their hairline and what type of Black they are, that's ridiculous. We are out here right now and you can't tell. Like, you can't tell who's South African, who's from Zimbabwe, who's from Ghana. You can't. Now, when you hear them speak, of course, absolutely. And yes, are there general phenotypical differences that might regionalize you? And by that, I mean, put you in sort of a connection with the geography? Yes. But anyway, let me focus on the positive. Build connections, build community. And not just, sometimes we think about stuff when we should really also be cleaning up house. We as Black Americans, for those identify, need to be building. Those of us who also have Black Caribbean, we need to be building, and not building necessarily not building in ways that are limited by the flags that colonize this, if that makes sense. Because every time, like when I go to the West Indian Day Parade and I see people jumping up for Jamaica, I'm like, yeah, man. When I see people jumping up for Trinidad or Guyana, I'm like, all right. But the reality is, we're all jumping up under flags of colonization, for the most part, other than Haiti, so for the most part. So build connections, recognize that we have a whole lot of things that are not in common. But we got 10 billion, 50, 11 billion, gazillion, quadrillion things more that are in common, that if we were to lean into that, most of our problems would be solved, and they would not require concession, support, funding from anybody else but ourselves. We would be able to resolve so many of our problems on our own if we could realize how much more we have in common that separates us. So having said all that, they said, tell your students to learn and enjoy. Yes. All right, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, do all those things. And remember, the live show airs Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, from Eastern to noon on SiriusXM Urban View. And the podcast, Lurie Breaks It Down, releases every afternoon and in the morning. We put our Moment of Gratitude segments on at 6 a.m. Eastern. And for those of you who are not on the show, every day I stay on the show, I invite people into what I call the Black Talk Landia experience. And what that means is Black Talk Landia is this phrase that we created that basically means we sit in the intersections of race, gender, culture, identity, politics, and the law. And we have those very difficult conversations every day because, as I tell my audience, having the conversations that we're not supposed to have helps us to learn how to be better people. We learn how to build better communities. And as a result, we're able to shape a better world. The challenge with doing the work of talking about Black Talk Landia, however, oh my God, what was that? Something just popped up on my screen. I don't know what that was. Thank you for the gift. That is so nice of you. Thank you so much. See, I don't usually see this during the show because I be looking at notes and stuff. Thank you so much for that. The challenge of doing the work of Black Talk Landia and having those difficult conversations is that it's heavy on the spirit and it weighs a lot on the mind, and you don't want people to only have that to tap into. And so we have created this segment called the Moment of Gratitude. And that's a segment where we focus on something that's going to allow us to cultivate a sense of joy, gratitude, and appreciation, because our lived experience has demonstrated and science has confirmed that when you are rooted in joy, gratitude, as my sweatshirt says, and appreciation, you cannot be trapped by fear, loneliness, and depression. And the work that we got to do to make this world a better place, to make ourselves in it healthier and a better place, requires us to be able to tap into joy, gratitude, and appreciation, because it's heavy work. And so the Moment of Gratitude is a segment that we do before I really get into the news. Usually, sometimes I mess up and just start. Sometimes, Urban View, y'all know, sometimes I just start going. But before we get into the heaviness of the news and the conversation that we're going to have, we always have a Moment of Gratitude segment. So a lot of y'all had talked about why we can't share that part. So we have now, for the past month or so, been putting out at 6 a.m. Eastern the Moment of Gratitude from the previous day, so that you all who are not in the Urban View space, you get it. If you want to, whatever your personal wellness practices are, if you got a spiritual practice, cool, I rock with that. If you are, Christian, Buddhist, traditional practices, whatever, if you are agnostic and an atheist, I'm like, your central nervous system need to be aligned. Your emotions need to be balanced. For those of you who don't believe in spirit, whatever it is, have a wellness practice in the morning. And so we have put out the Moment of Gratitude. So that comes out on the podcast, which again is called Lurie Breaks It Down. That comes out at 6 in the morning. And then in the afternoon, you get a segment of the podcast as well. That's usually dealing with something current eventy, or is a conversation that I've had on air that I thought was important to share. So having said all of that, I appreciate y'all. I will be back about sometime like this tomorrow, maybe, assuming I don't fall asleep because I'm jet lagged. But I love y'all. I appreciate y'all and look forward to just continuing to learn and figuring out how to be a better person. Now I gotta learn how to turn this off on my phone. Thank you, Button Creations. I appreciate that. Share the video, share the love. Yes, please do all that. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good night. Peace. How do I turn this thing off? Y'all know I don't be no.